Hi, welcome to Stamps by Judith and Heather. I'm going to show you a a few projects using some of the newer images that we designed for May. Here's one of them with the new arbor and one with the new potting shed. I'm going to show you how to put these cards together and get some of the small details on there, and I also have got a list that I will show you later on of the marker colors actually used on the cards, because we have a lot of requests for that. But I want to get going and show you how to get some of the elements onto this card. Just for time saving sake, I already have my arbor colored. So the next thing would be to get the hanging basket and the flowers in the hanging basket. First thing I'm going to do is get my black ink pad and just kind of put the hanging basket where I want it. So there, it's close, maybe a little more in the center than this one. But then I stamped it on another piece of paper and cut it out. So what I did, grab a scratch sheet, is I stamped it on a piece of cardstock and just cut out the basket. So that way I can get my little spriglets into it. Spriglet's a stubby. It's this guy. And I'm going to stamp them in green. Oops, what I need to do first, almost missed a step, is I'm going to create a mask. Oh, and if you hear any chirping, there's some new parakeets in the house, and they like to sing when they hear me talk. So I created a mask. I'm going to cover up the basket that I have there, and then take my spriglet and just stamp spriglets into this. You can make it as bushy and full as you want. If you want to turn a few down, you can have a few sticking into the basket. So then I would have that. And before I cut it out, I'm going to add a little bit of green just to give it a little bit of a watercolor look, and some blue. And my soft brown. I have it kind of colored. And then I'm going to take a new stubby, it's a little 3-flower stubby, and create a bunch of tiny little flowers in my basket. That way I can get them to look like little clustered violets or something like that. Now that I have that portion done, I'm going to take and cut it out. This part takes a minute. Okay. Just quickly whip around this. And then you would take this and glue it over the top. On this one I used a little bit of double stick tape to give it some dimension. So you would have it hanging there. If you wanted the lines of the hanging basket, you could draw them back in between the petals. Then to get the bottom on the card, down here, I took my grass stamp, this guy, in black. Should do it on this side first. And just put some grass sticking out like that. And then I came back and colored it. Kind of like to work in steps with this one, finishing one part at a time. always have to add a little bit of blue. Okay, like that. And then you want to anchor this. So I'm going to quickly throw a little bit of brown in there. Okay, then the next thing, I have rocks, flower pots, barrels. So I'm going to take my flower pot first. And I'm just going to stick my flower pot like that. If it overlaps a little bit, I'm not too worried about it. And then I'm going to grab my Tombow markers. Simple flower pot color. It's a nice sort of golden orange. And then to shade, I'm going to take my golden orange and pick up a little bit of my dark red. And that's how I'm going to get my nice terracotta color in my flower pot. And then you can go back in with your dark red, add the shadows. Now to save time on masking the little, what do you call it, barrel, I stamped one previously, colored it, cut it out, and there's your barrel. So you can glue it down. The next thing is the rocks. And just like the barrel, lost my piece of paper, take my rocks, stamp a couple sets of them in the watercolor ink, and then to color, just throw some green. You don't have to be precise. Just little swatches of color here and there. If you get some green on the rock, that's okay. It can just be moss. Some blue. You can see how adding more than one color creates more dimension. Some soft brown underneath, again for dirt, and if it gets on the rocks, that's okay too. And then I need a gray. I'm going to take my gray and put some soft gray in there. So there are my rocks. My ink pad before I end up sticking my elbow in it. And I would quickly cut these out, sort of leaving the dirt underneath, taking and just zigzagging around the little grass blades that you created with your marker. And I find that cutting these out and layering them is easier for me than masking or doing a lot of masking, because I can get them where I want them better than when I mask. Masking is not precise for me, so I much prefer to cut them out. And then you would take your rocks and lay them out. I'm going to take a little bit of this limey green color, throw it in my rocks as well. And you can see on the card that I did here, I have two sets. One's covering up the pail and the flower pot. The other was over here covering up the bottom of the arbor. Before I do that though, before I glue those down, I would grab something like my stickweed. So remove this mess. And I'm going to take my stickweed, and a little piece of paper. You can create stick weeds. These guys would be glued down. You can stick one in there, like that if you want, and you can cover it up. Actually, it needs another one. There we go, it's better. Glue that down and cover it up. And then out of the flower pot, I'm going to grab my fir branch, and mine is a well-loved stamp. Cover up my flower pot. Actually put some coming out down there. And then to tie those into the branches a little bit, excuse me, I'm going to take my markers again. Throw a little of the color on there. A little bit of the blue. And again, you can see how precise I'm being. A little bit of the brown. Okay. So right now what you have is that would be glued down. That one would be glued down, and then you'd have rocks there and rocks there. And I lost one of my other stamps. The element is this little bird, which I stamped and cut out. And I would use some double stick tape and make him dimensional, so you have your little critter hanging out in the top. And then the last steps to dress it up would be to take these little stick stamps. This is a fuzzy flower top. And you add the little flower elements that kind of tie it all together. Oops! Make sure you don't lose your bird in the same process. And I'm stamping more than once. That. To clean off my stamp, I just tap it off on a damp paper towel. This is a little tiny leaf cluster. You have that. And then I'm going to take my dots in blue. Take my dots and just soften everything. Light touch. Don't slam them on there as blobs. Otherwise that's too heavy for background. And when you have it all together, you have rocks there, over there. Add your saying, friends were flowers, I'd pick you. And then the one little hidden element in this card, way down here in the corner, is our one other bit of wildlife, and our little tiny frog. So that's how you'd put together the Arbor card, building it, dimension there, and there, and there. Okay, the other stamp, the big stamp for May, is the potting shed. This guy. He's just one stamp. There's not a whole lot of extra elements to him. It's this guy right here. It's a new kind of fun stamp, sort of all in its own kind of stamp. Here I already have one stamped. I recommend when you ink this guy to ink him very well and get good even pressure when you stamp. Now to color. Oh! I'm going to show you this before I move on. Here are the colors that I used for the Arbor card. I have them listed. These are Tombow Watercolor Markers, and you can always pause the video and write these down. And at the end I'll show you the colors for the potting shed. First thing I'm going to do is start off with this soft brown. and just kind of fill in the planks on the roof and under the roof line, and then down the planks on the side of the shed. Under, and it's okay to leave white area. Nothing said, nobody ever said you have to fill in every little element of a card. Since these are watercolor markers, they give you a nice soft look, but I am working from light to dark. I'm not grabbing the darkest brown. That would overwhelm it. Okay. I got that. And the next step, grab scratch piece of paper again. There's my light brown. This is a dark brown. I'm going to take my light brown and pick up my dark brown. And that's how I blend the colors without overwhelming it. It does not hurt the tip of my light brown marker in the least. As you can see, I have to go back and keep picking up the dark brown because it wears off the marker. And you can already see how that's changing and adjusting it a little bit. And it would be darker under the edge of the roof. Under the windowsill. Behind a pot. Inside the back of the shed. Door edges, underneath, okay, once you kind of have that laid out a little bit, I don't want quite so much white on the roof. I'm going to go back in with my dark marker, same dark one I shaded with, and I'm going to go and hit the dark spots. Take my light marker and blend them in a little bit, and you would just keep building, filling and building. I'm going to pick up the color again a little bit. And each time you go over a color, it gets darker and darker. And that's how you would slowly build the color. If you tried to color the whole potting shed in with the dark marker, it would overwhelm it very quickly and be too dark, too fast. And once the dark is down, you cannot take it away. It's there and it's not going anywhere. Darken the crossbars. Okay. I'll just say for that sake right now it's good. Alright, I want to age my shed a little bit, so I'm going to take this soft khaki color, and when you put that in there, it adds a little, for lack of a better word, antiquing to your shed. It's got kind of a yellow-green tone to it. Oh, we got that. You can see each time I color it, it turns out a little different, and also depends on the paper that you use. Oops, scratch sheet of paper, put the wrong thing away. The next thing is my green marker for grass. along the bottom of the shed, little things, plants in the windowsill, coming down, plants up here in the hanging planter inside the shed. Add a little bit of blue. And then in the windows, I'm just going to put a few little streaky swatches of the blue. So I have my glass. Alright, now give my green a little bit of a pop, a little bit of a lime green in there, like that. Now our flower pot, again, our different flower pots, is this golden color. Hopefully you can see how this is starting to pull together. And to shade with my flower pot, I'm going to pick up a little bit of that darker red to get the terracotta color. So we have our flower pots. The hanging planter and the soil bag, I'm just using a gray. Same with the shovel and the rake. A little dirt in my flower bag handle. And then I'm going to grab a darker gray. I'll turn around with my markers. Very darker gray, I picked it up with the lighter gray marker. And that's where I do the hinges and the door handle. Inside the rake, I'm going to take my darker gray and add a little detail. Darken the rake handle. The one color I do need for the windows is this soft icy color. Something as simple as windows, you want another color. I'm going to take just kind of a dark magenta, add flower colors to my window planters. And that gives you the general idea of the potting shed. Here's the whole thing fleshed out a little bit more. But I wanted to show you the extra elements, and one of those is the fence post. And you can add fence posts wherever you like. And to color those are very, very simple to color. Soft brown, quickly go up and down them. Pick up the darker brown. Add. It's on the right markers. That's always my most difficult thing. Go in, color around, and a little bit of blue. And before I add my rocks, I'm going to grab my sprig stamp. Cover up between my fence posts. This is a larger sprig stamp. The other card I used the spriglet. Okay, so I got the sprig stamp. I'm going to grab my markers again. And add the blue. And I'm going to go back with that 3 little flowers stamp, the new one, if I can figure out where I set it. And add little flowers. And I'm picking up the color for the flowers from the rainbow pad we carry. It has pretty much all the primary colors. And then the last step, or I should say the last stamp, is I would cut out more rock piles and put the rock piles on there. You can actually take this rock pile. You could change how many you have, cut it apart. You only need part of it there. And here I have it glued down. I use part of it there and part of it there. It's actually dimensional. And then I cut my saying and slid it behind the house. And then, once you have your rock piles on there, it's just a fine line pilot pen. Here are your little fences that run behind the house. Add little X's for the barbs. Oh, one step I forgot is to take my soft gray marker and put it around things to pop the shed off the page. And I forgot to do that on the arbor as well, but I would go around and add dimension, and that really changes how things look. And then you would add your dots, and here are, oops, that's the arbor, here are the colors for the potting shed card. And you can pause the video and watch or write those down. So here's the finished card for the potting shed. I hope it gave you some fun ideas and you have a good time trying and creating with these stamps on your own.